सम्प्रति स्वविचारान् प्रस्तोतुम् अहं डॉक्टर बिबेक देब्रॉय महोदयं निवेदयामि।
सर्वेभ्यः नमामि। नन्दामि यत् अद्य कार्यक्रमं संस्कृतभाषायां वर्तते, परन्तु क्षम्यताम्, अहं संस्कृतं सम्यक् न वदामि। विवेकभ्रष्टं तु अहमस्मि। संस्कृतभाषायां भाषणं कर्तुं न शक्नोमि। एतत् पुस्तकमपि आङ्ग्लभाषायां विरचितम्, इसलिए आदत भी नहीं है, संस्कृत भाषा में बोल नहीं सकूंगा। आज ये एक काकतालीय घटना है। काकतालीय शब्द का यहाँ पे मुझे किसी को समझाना नहीं पड़ेगा, मगर हमारी हालत ऐसी है कि बाहर जाके अगर मैं कहूँगा काकतालीय, किसी को समझ में नहीं आएगा जब तक मैं नहीं कहूँगा कोइंसिडेंस। क्यों कह रहा हूँ आज ये कोइंसिडेंस है? Because there was a committee which was set up by the HRD ministry to recommend a roadmap for the development of Sanskrit. Many of us here are members of that committee, and it is a coincidence because today we submitted that report. Sanskrit Bharati is extremely powerful. Its influence is pervasive, but I don't think Sanskrit Bharati quite engineered this coincidence. It just happened. Many of the Shastris have now been forced to become Shastris. There is a Dharma Kshetra, Kshetra, where हम सब समवेता है युत्सव. But there are two battles जो जुड़ा हुआ है, but there are two separate battles. One is the broader battle for Sanskrit, and the other one is Rajiv Ji's book. As I said, they are linked with each other, but these are two separate battles. You have not come here to listen to me. We have all come here to listen to Rajiv Ji. So I will not take too long, but let me begin with the first battle first. A question that I ask people: how many books have been published in any language in the world since the beginning of printing? Any language in the world, how many books have been published? What is the total number? According to the UN, the total number is 130 million. 130 million. There is something called the National Manuscript Mission, NAMAMI, which is still in its early stages. It has begun to only list the manuscripts that exist in India. Manuscripts does not mean books that are published. These are puthis. Manuscripts does not mean that these exist in public libraries. They exist in private collections. As of now, मुझे नहीं मालूम सही figure क्या है. As of now, I think they have listed about 4 million manuscripts, but the estimate is that there are at least 35 million manuscripts in the country. So 130 million books published throughout the world in all languages, and 35 million manuscripts in India, an estimated 50,000 manuscripts which exist outside India because they've been taken abroad. And what is to be noted is that 95% of these manuscripts have not been translated. 95% of these manuscripts have not been translated. We do not know what exists in them because they have not been translated. Not all of them are in Sanskrit. In fact, what is sometimes not known is that quite a bit of the Sanskrit literature was actually written by Buddhists. And the first thesaurus or dictionary in the world, which I believe is still used, is Amar Singha. And Amar Singha was a Buddhist. So not all of this literature is religious. Some of it is I hate that term, but some of this is also within quotes secular. It's not been translated. And here we have people telling us that there is nothing useful in this entire corpus. To decide whether something useful exists or does not exist, one must at least first know what exists. That's a basic principle of empiricism. If we haven't even translated it, and do remember that sometimes, even though the manuscript is in Sanskrit, the script may be a script where we no longer have people who can read that script. Do remember, this is just manuscripts. There is plenty of knowledge that has been lost because it was through a process of oral transmission, because it was never put down in the form of a written text, and this knowledge has just disappeared. It is all very well to criticize Western scholars and to say that you have not understood. You have not understood the nuances, you have mistranslated. But up to a point, that criticism is valid, but it is also a negative kind of attitude. Unless we come together as a collective entity, unless we come together as a collective society, and unless we do not begin this battle of saving Sanskrit, then Sanskrit, as many people in the world want, will really become a dead language. So the responsibility devolves on us. And that is part of the battle, which is a battle that is internal to us, in the sense that we need to popularize Sanskrit. We need to persuade people that Sanskrit needs to be studied. Sanskrit needs to be studied because there is a store of knowledge. Sanskrit needs to be studied because I will name my son Rajiv and I will not bother to find out what the word Rajiv means. By the way, I am not sure whether you're Rajiv or Rajiv Lochan. I think after reading the book, he's Rajiv Lekhan. I will go to the temple. I will mechanically recite mantras, but I will not bother to find out what that mantra means. To me, this sounds extremely, extremely strange. But there is a second battle for Sanskrit, as I said. But on that first battle, I have a remarkable manuscript, meaning I don't have a manuscript, I have a photocopy of a manuscript. It's called Chaudhya Shastram. I don't know if any of you can educate me on Chaudhya Shastram. It's a manual meant for thieves. I don't know if it has been translated. If it were to be translated, it would come to about 450 pages. So it's amazing the kinds of things that were written on. And I, by the way, purely as an anecdote, I never studied Sanskrit formally. I got dragged into Sanskrit about 20 years ago because of two chants slokas, and maybe I should mention them. I encountered two chants slokas. One was from Valmiki Ramayana and the other one was from Kalidasa. Valmiki Ramayana, the shloka is Vidyut Pataka Savalaka Mala Shailendra Kotakriti Sannikasha Garyanti Megha Samudirna Nada Matta Gajendra Ivasam Yugastha. In Kalidas, it is Megdutam, right towards the beginning. Asharasya Prathama Devase Megamashlishtha Sanum Vaprakrira Parinatagaja Prekshaniyam Dadarsha. I don't need to translate those for an audience like these. But what struck me was the following. This occurs in the Valmiki Ramayana in Sundarkanda when Rama already knows that Sita is in Lanka. He is waiting impatiently for the monsoon to be over so that he can invade. And he sees these clouds, and these clouds are being compared to elephants that are fighting. Matta Gajendra Iva Sangyugastha. In Meghadutam, the background is completely different because here is the Yaksha who has been vanished by Kuvera for 1 year. He is pining for his beloved and he sends the cloud as a messenger, and again he sees the clouds, and the only image that he can think of so far as the cloud is concerned is an elephant. But what are the elephants doing? Asar Meghamash Vaprakrira Parinatagaja Prekshaniyam Dadarsha. The elephants are playing. And it was as if these shlokas, they hit me. That here are two poets separated by we do not know how many centuries. Both of them see the clouds and compare them to elephants, which of course was standard imagery in literature. But in one particular case, because Rama is wanting to fight, the elephants are fighting. In the other case, because the Yaksha is pining for his beloved, the elephants are sporting or playing. And then it hit me that if I do not read this literature, as an Indian, I am missing out on my history, my culture, my legacy, and I am not doing justice to any of those. Also on Kalidas, I do not know how many poets in the world, Shakespeare included, have ever composed a poem that uses a mushroom or a toadstool. Uchilindram Avandam. I think it's unimaginable. So the point I'm trying to make is that there is a lot of this so-called secular literature also. And it's part of a legacy, and it needs to be saved. Now let me turn to Rajiv's book. Rajiv's book provides you enough documentation on why that first battle needs to be fought. I have a complaint about Rajiv's book. I will state the complaint, which is the book, a large part of the book, is directed against Sheldon Pollock. Sitting here, my reaction would have been, is Sheldon Pollock that important? Now don't misunderstand. I have also read why you have said in the book that Sheldon Pollock is important. I completely understand your arguments. So the book is an excellent book. I told him earlier that this book should be translated into the vernacular languages. Why is the battle only to be fought in Sanskrit? The first battle, is not a battle that is a global battle. That is an internal domestic battle that needs to be fought also in the vernacular languages. Sheldon Pollock apart, and I repeat so that there is no misunderstanding, I completely understand why much of the book is directed against American academia and Sheldon Pollock in particular. There is plenty of masala in the book. I think everyone who is inside this room is sold on the cause of Sanskrit. But having been sold for the cause of Sanskrit, you need the ammunition, you need the masala to go out and fight that battle outside. And Rajiv's book will give you plenty of that. So please do read the book. Hear Rajiv by all means. Rajiv is an excellent speaker, but hearing Rajiv here is going to be no substitute for reading the book. So after hearing Rajiv, please go and read the book, and propagate the message of Sanskrit. Thank you very much.